All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. We can be in the different time zones, so I go to in different time zone. Welcome to our first webinar. First in the cycle of webinars we'll deliver to our customers, clients, to the market. The first one is about modern service management in the digital world. So let me just give you some information. First of all, this webinar, as the future one, will be recording, so will be available as a value added on YouTube and also on our website. Down in the corner, right down corner, you can see our website address, www.adviceskills.com, and you can contact with us. Also, you can find the email address then. At the end of our meeting, there will be time for some questions. So let's start. First of all, let me just introduce myself. My name is Krzysztof or Chris Politowicz, and I've been involved in service management for the last 30 years. Working for global and big organizations like Compaq Computer, like Gartner Group, like Digital Equipment Corporation, history of IT, OC from Netherlands. Also, I work for different industries. So beginning of my career was in educational at the University of Łódź, and also in the biggest hospital in Poland, Polish Mother Memorial Hospital. But also I was president of the board of my own company, so different experience. From the perspective of service management, I was co-founder of a Polish chapter of IT Service Management Forum. It is a forum for practitioners who are involved in service management for ITIL, VeriSM, ITOM, ISO 20000, and many more. Also, by one of the examination institutes, I mean EXIN, I was invited to the project of creation VeriSM. And later on, I just tell you more about that. This is about how to how to roll out service management to the entire organization. Also, I'm a partner of PeopleCert, Axelos, EXIN, or British Computer Society, because usually I'm the role of quality assurance with translation or with content management. Now, about Advice Skills, it's, from my perspective, amazing company. I work for the biggest organizations in the world, and Advice Skills is one of them, the fastest growing training organization. And I observed during the last months, this is really delivering online courses as well as on-site, and especially in the pandemic time is much harder. To be honest, next week from 15, I'm going to deliver one training about that. It's interesting because some of you maybe know part of Advice Skills is Agile Center or Architecture Center, and still this good practice is coming from those you can find here in Advice Skills. Also, they propose training on site in your company, at your company. So this is a lot of different stuff you can find in Advice Skills, and I'm also beneficial as I'm going to pass my Lean IT Kaizen on this week on Saturday. So keep your fingers crossed for me. So let's start. All together, if we want or not, we are in the fourth digital revolution. And it affects our lives. And if you would like to go to holiday, or if you would like to see the movie, I recommend the La Casa de Papel. I'm fan of this on Netflix. I'm just watching this. And every aspect of our life is touched by digital disruption. So if you want or not, we are a part of the fourth digital revolution. I just mentioned Klaus Schwab to just remind us that first industrial revolution used water and steam power to mechanize production. It was simple word. Then the second revolution was when we start to use electric power to create mass production. And the third use electronics, information technology, IT to automate production. I got started this because I'm in the business and IT for the last 32 years. Now, we are in the fourth industrial revolution, building on the first or the third one, digital revolution, and you face with connection by mobile devices, by accessing to the knowledge, information. We have too much information right now, and how to feel. It's about Internet of Things, robotics, artificial intelligence. Just somebody call me and ask me about that. For me, it's very tough to just recognize it's a human being or AI. So we are in the fourth digital revolution. So what we can do personally, individually, and also as organizations, as companies. One of the answer I strongly believe, because I'm involved from the year 2000, since 2002, when I first time met with ITIL in version 2, it's service management. Klaus Schwab also mentioned about challenges and opportunities we can find, and focusing on opportunities, impact on business, using digitalization, using a combination of new technology, emergent technologies, such as containerization, such as AI, such as cloud computing, we can change our mindset, how we do business. And I observed during the last years that even small companies can compete with the biggest one and much faster. Also, impact of government. I'm involved in the developing of the platform in which patients can get access to medical doctors. So I can see how we can change our world. And also impact of every people in the globe, especially with opportunities for working everywhere in the world, to getting knowledge and experience, to get certificates. Last 2 years, delivering trainings online only. Before that, I traveled around the world 7 years, 300 places. So it also affects my life and life of my students or participants of my courses. And shaping the future, because the fourth revolution affect all the aspects of our life in positive and negative ways. So it's better to join and to impact our future and future of our children. As I said, in my opinion, service management could help to join this revolution. And a short history of service management, because usually people think about service management in terms of ITIL, IT Infrastructure Library. ITIL, of course, is the biggest and the most popular, but not only. Before that, in 70s, last century, in the American market, service management was a part of services for big manufacturing, for example, in the car industry, when some additional services bring value to the customers of this sector. In 80s, last century, ITIL was developed by a British government, and still, this is the owner. I mean, usually I ask my students, who is the owner of ITIL? And the answer is Queen Elizabeth II, I mean, Her Majesty government. But now more and more, based on ITIL, was established a British standard, 50,000, Microsoft Operation Framework, and standard, international standard as a ISO 20,000. Also, you can see ETOM for telecommunication operation map. From year 2000, we have got new version of ITIL version 3 and focusing on the lifecycle. Still is valid because to the end of this year, you can consider certification, accreditation for this one. From 2018, we have new approach, and this approach is really absorbing this what we can find in the fourth digital revolution. It's ITIL 4, it's VeriSM, and it's a modern approach to every aspect of service management. So this is a lot of different brands you can find, like IT4IT, like ETOM, like VeriSM we mentioned. And now more in details, if you don't mind. First of all, I still believe that ITIL version 3 could be valid. So till the end of this year, you can recognize the whole life cycle of service management based on service strategy, service transition, service operation, design, and continuous service improvement. If you just would like to know more about it, it's still this investment in getting knowledge is still valid for ITIL 4 because you can find a lot of elements, key elements in ITIL 4. So this is the whole picture of the processes that affect the whole life cycle of service. It's about financial management. It's about how to manage event, incident, problem, more in service operation. Still valid. What is interesting, in ITIL practitioner in version 3, first time we met 9 guiding principles. It will be very useful because in ITIL 4, you can find 7 out of them. And similar as in project management, Prince 2, you can find 9 guiding principles. For example, keep it simple, my favorite one. I learned from US Coast Guard, my students, that we should say, instead of something else, keep it simple, sailor. So simplification is good. You can find observe directly. It's from Japanese word gemba. Observe and be in the place when the value is created. Design for experience, focus on value. All this will be still valid in ITIL 4. So it's also to consider to know them. Also connected to ITIL version 3, you can find ISO 20000. This is like a triangle that on top you can see what must have as a checklist is a specification in 2001. And also should have is a rather enhancement of the standard is for code of practice. Altogether, is based on IT service management practices, like ITIL, like a Microsoft Operation Framework, like a COBIT, Control Object for Business and IT, like a ISO 9000 and quality management. In ISO 20000, it's a new approach. You can find several new general requirements that have been introduced regarding the context of the organization. So ISO 20000 also is developed, and you can get this certification for the company as well for individuals. You can see the whole picture and how services delivered to customers and certain requirements are connected to the whole picture of ISO 20000 from year 2018. And the most interesting is a part of operation of the service management system, of course, with leadership, planning, supporting, and the organization context. But this operation of covering all the practices and processes involved in service management. In my opinion, during the years, because I'm involved for the last 18 years in service management, I observed that it's like a little bit competition between ITIL and ISO 20000, including British Standard 50000. And sometimes ISO 20000 was most forward than ITIL, and in opposite also. Service management system you can find similarity also in ITIL-4. This is about certification, because when I discuss with my students, and I have trained around 30,000 people till now. So usually my students want to get certificates to increase their career, to get a better job, or to get a better position in the company. And this is a new track for ITIL-4. You can see is focusing on how to build value for stakeholders, for customers, how to increase the velocity of IT, how to create a digital and IT strategy. So this track is totally new for ITIL-4, and is very interesting. And here we are. You can find a lot of, previously we called them processes, and now there are just practices. And I missed this for many, many years. For example, risk management. As an inherent part in version 2 and 3, you can find risk management in availability management, continuity management, security management as well. Now, this is belongs to general management practice. Instead of 26 processes, we've got 34 practices, and most of them coming from business. Just have a look. Architecture management is based on the most popular approaches like TOGAF, like IT for IT, like SIAM, like how to build like SOA, service-oriented architecture. One of my favorite part, not only project management, portfolio management, but one of my favorite part is organization change management and knowledge management. Organization change management, OCM, is based on Mr. Kotter 8 steps, how to introduce change in the organization. So also this practice you can find in ITIL-4. Knowledge management is to set up a service knowledge management system and to cover all information around service management in our organization. Also, interesting, you can find all the service management practices here, you probably recognize, but also from development, you can find development management, infrastructure and platform management, and software development and management. So from the development. ITIL-4 introduced one system instead of 26 processes. And in practice, usually I work with huge, big organizations in the world, like governments, like companies you can recognize from the first pages of the newspaper. And if they wanted to implement all the processes, is probably not possible, or possible, of course, but in very long period of time, like 10 years or 20 years. ITIL-4 introduced one system with 5 components, but still focusing on how we can deliver, how we can co-create value with our consumers, with our clients, with our stakeholders. So it's based on the opportunities or demand from their side. It's 5 elements, and the heart of a service value system in ITIL-4, you can find service value chain with 6 main activities and guiding principles I mentioned coming from ITIL-3 practitioner, 34 practices, and continuous improvement. This is very interesting because continuous improvement is the most crucial part of ITIL, as this is a part of 5 components of service value system. Also improve is an activity in service value chain and is one of the practices. So how to improve our products, our services, to co-create value to our consumers, to our customers, to our stakeholders. By the way, this definition of stakeholder is very interesting. For example, in TOGAF, my favorite approach to enterprise architecture development is an individual, a group of people, or the organization with has some interest or concern. Here in ITIL and Prince 2, you can find enhancement of it. It's also in individual, single person, or group of people, or entire organization may be affected by or perceive themselves affected by the goal of our project, our service, our product. From this perspective, usually I say, just consider competitors, your competition. Because in my experience, competition gives you opportunity to focus on quality of your products and services much better than without them. So they are also stakeholders. So as I mentioned before, here you can find 6 main activities in the service value chain as a heart of a service value system. And it's very interesting that it's not that always, like you probably know, a Deming cycle. Plan, do, check, act, PDCA, that's everything you can do, you have to do, you can start with plan. Here in service value chain, it depends on the situation. You can start with the improvement. You can start with engage. You can start with plan or deliver and support. By the way, this is also interesting because the authors of ITIL use the names we know from version 2, for example, deliver and support. From version 3, design and transition. Now, as a name for activities in the service value chain. What is interesting, the most crucial part you can find in this cube, engage, when you interact with your stakeholders, with your customers, users, and you interact in this way that you send and receive information based on the RACI model, like accountable, responsible, consult, and inform, getting and giving information. This is to prepare products and services by which we can deliver co-create value. One of the most crucial part in ITIL is that as a provider or service provider or vendor or supplier, we cannot deliver value, just forcing to deliver value, but it's a co-creation between service provider and service consumer. Also, younger brother of ITIL, you can find VeriSM. VeriSM approach was established 3 years ago, as I remember, and this is an approach to entire organization. ITIL as well is very good for entire organization, but because of the name ITIL, IT, information technology, usually people from the boards thinking it's only applicable for IT. It's not true. ITIL as well is very useful for entire organization. And during the years, I observe people from different parts of the organization, from purchasing, from planning, from the board, from production, from every part try to use components of ITIL, like just consider change management, like consider service level management based on SLT. 3 years ago, a consortium of examination institutes like EXIN, like British Computer Society, like APM Group, established a consortium to create approach to entire organization. And this is VeriSM. This is VeriSM to govern under one model. So to be honest, VeriSM was before ITIL. So the scope of this is to define service management principles and to support tailor organization to be more service-oriented. So inside in the organization, VeriSM help you to build a model that works for your organization. It's funny because VeriSM coming from the art, and this is let's say in the 18th centuries, art and painting, when the painters tried to give realism. So it's VeriSM, like in the Italian word, true. So with these roots, VeriSM is about value-driven, evolving, responsive, integrated service management, or SM, and the end is service management. VeriSM proposed a model to work with consumers and based on governance, based on management, service management principles, as well management mesh. By the way, I like this management mesh because consider 4 different directions. And for example, when I deliver enterprise architecture project, instead of gap analysis, I like to consider management mesh as a tool to cover all these aspects. In the moment, I just show you how it looks like. With 4 main activities: define, produce, provide, and respond. Especially respond is about getting feedback. So you can respond, you can find here some aspects of Agile, like in the event of Agile, it's a review that you get some feedback from your stakeholders. This is what I mentioned, the VeriSM model, and this is how to develop your final solution. So consider from one side resources like time, people, like space, like access to computers. Also, on the right, you can find emerging technologies like containerization, like cloud computing, like artificial intelligence, like a blockchain. On the left, you have the current environment. For that, I like to use Kinefin as a method for recognize how complicated is my environment. I just create something new. Environment also stabilizes like processes, like metrics, like people, and management practices. So VeriSM incorporate practices from your organization. So blend this in one model. For example, ITIL, IT for IT, for example, PPM, including Prince2, Prince2 Agile, including MSP, new version, I strongly recommend. Risk management also, including TOGAF, including all together. So VeriSM incorporate and rely on what is available in the organization or what is necessary to develop your idea to create them to the truth. The scheme of a VeriSM certification is very simple. At the moment, it's just foundation and professional. Foundation is more about terms, definitions, how to use it. And professional is more how to apply this to our organization. Provided by Exin, British Computer Society, IPM Group, as examination institutes. To be part of this project, we established 2 manuals, and even if I have collected more than 106 different certificates from BPM, best management practices, still I recognize something new I can add to my portfolio of experience to support my customers, organization, my students. As well, I'm a trainer and also I'm a teacher in Warsaw School of IT. So here we are, some additional thing like Agile Service Management, incorporated this one in how to manage. So VeriSM also apply Agile and Agile way of working. I prefer to say Agile way of thinking because it changed our mindset and how we apply relying on people who deliver something. If you just notice down in the management mesh, you can find a lot of different emerging practices or practices. And DevOps is one of them, is to combine people from development, operations, quality, business in one team to deliver a solution, test them, and especially it's coming from software development, but DevOps can be used in every environment for business, for production. It's to create one team when people just avoid situation that gathering requirements is just only at the beginning of the project. DevOps developed 3 ways, and I strongly believe in these 3 ways. First of all, is the flow. How from one side, from developers to operation, from business to developers flow. The second way, and this is also the heart of Agile, as in my opinion, DevOps was created after experience with Agile, it's feedback. It's to create shorter feedback loops. Oh, you can observe in a Scrum, for example, that you can get feedback every 4 weeks maximum, that you create a review and then a retrospective, or every day on a daily Scrum or stand-up meeting. And DevOps also focusing on continuous experimentation and learning. So we use this term like minimum viable architecture or minimum viable product, and ongoing experimentation and ongoing learning. So as I usually say to my students, if you have to fail, it's better to fail in your mock exam or sample exam to prepare and to learn to avoid these mistakes. It's ongoing learning. In a service management, you can find DevOps can advance service management practices by shifting them to the left. So connecting with people who are sponsors, customers, and involve them sooner than at the end of the project. Usually, I describe this in IT for many years. You can observe this picture. What customer wanted, the swing, and what customer received is the tire on the rope. One of the interesting stuff is, in my opinion, this is approach developed by Agile, service integration and management. This is approach how to integrate those two different worlds. So one of the method in service management could be DevOps, Agile, but also SIAM, service integration and management, when from one side we were customer organization with different business units, business processes, business products and services. And from other side, we have a service provider, internal, external service providers. And between them, there is a role of service integrator. Service integrator who combine them and support them. It's like a advocatus angeli in Latin. Another emergent practices you can find, there is Lean, and we have a lot of Lean pictures like Lean manufacturing, Lean Six Sigma, Lean Kaizen, Lean IT, Lean startup. What is interesting, Lean support service management and focusing on to avoid 7 wastes, like emotion, when you just move some components from one place to another, like to keep stock, big one, like a waiting for response, because waiting is waste, like a defects, to avoid them. Service management trying to consider this one, introduce in ITIL also event management to monitor, to early detection of events. Overproduction. As a former president of a company and who lost company, I said we did this. We produce a lot of training materials, and I learned by myself this is really waste who can kill every organization. Transportation and over processing. Too much processing also can kill. So Lean is to focusing on to make it much flexible, effective and efficient. In Lean, we also focusing on this like in DevOps flow, pull instead of push, and waste, muda muri muni. All this approach to avoid waste in the organization. Also, we mentioned about to move rather to the left, shift left. This approach is to, as early as possible, detect any issue, any failures, and to use in an effective and efficient way your resources, for example, time, for example, money, for example, experience, involving of your people, and release smoothly. One of my favorite approach I met in Theory of Constraints developed by Eliyahu Goldratt and Jeff Cox. It was many years ago, but still is valid for business, the goal. I tell you, this is also interesting because based on this book, a few years ago was IT business novel created by Gene Keen and co-authors. And the title of this book is The Unicorn Project. And previous one was the Phoenix Project. This theory recognizes every process has a point that has the potential to become a bottleneck. So this is to be more efficient when to identify constraints and reduce the impact of the bottlenecks or remove it completely if possible. Strongly recommend you these two books, the Phoenix Project and the newest one from the last year, the Unicorn Project. Also Kaizen, coming from Japanese words, Kaizen, it's like a good change. And we recognize 4 steps here. Understand the vision first and direction, grasp the current condition, establish new target condition, and PDCA as a plan, do, check, act, or Deming cycle, or experiment towards the target condition. So in my opinion, all of these proposed methodologies, approaches are connected to each other and supported to each other. For example, when you just consider enterprise architecture development as a TOGAF, you can find here more. For example, service-oriented architecture, you can find COBIT, you can find a CMMI. It's based on a Prince2 or PMBOK involving ITIL or VeriSM. So it could be very interesting. Kata is about introducing small change, but constantly. It's like a habit. I remember I worked for Kabu.com. It's a Japanese organization, part of Mitsubishi Corporation. And I met Mr. Luke Toda, who described that in one factory in Japan, that was a red line. If somebody of the workers make a mistake, just press this line or this button or something like that to inform the company, I did mistake. And everybody can come and learn what kind of mistakes and how to improve this. It's also connected to this approach. I just checked with Gartner. Gartner is a company collecting information from the market, from leaders, managers, senior management, from the organization, and propose trends. So still, in year 2021, moving to more intelligence application and analysis, to use more intelligent things with artificial intelligence. Also, it's about considering risk and how to continuously adaptive risk and trust to our solution. And because it's a digital revolution, we're still focusing on digital approach, like conversation platform, like immersive experience, like cloud computing, and more and more. Pandemia, unfortunately or fortunately, support this approach. And as I told you at the beginning, I totally changed my delivery of my trainings and advices from being in place to being online. And this is a total, it's a global change affecting all our lives. However, we still need such a contact like a osmotic communication. Maybe you heard about osmotic communication. It's that in my previous life, I was a salesperson. As a salesperson, I met with my customers face to face. We still need this approach to be safe. Also, cloud is approach, cloud computing, cloud approach. When you just based on demand, we can share, we can deliver our IT resources. So also this could be a part, and this is really part of service management. Virtualization, when we use virtual machines, when we deliver, I had the experience, it was many years ago. So for me, cloud computing and virtualization it's not nothing new, because I work in the farm of servers in the heart of Warsaw, capital of Poland, and we deliver these virtual machines to our customers. It was 20 years ago. Automation. This is one of my favorite buzzwords, because when we automate, we just replace opportunity to make mistakes by a human being. And this is to support speed, accuracy, and enforcement as automated tasks, ensure that we avoid some mistakes done by human being. Big data. Not popular now because of what happened in the election, but we collecting data. If you want or not, we collecting a lot of data. And my first time with big data, it was my first experience was we transform 800 different applications to one system in big telecom here in Poland, and we focus on that. IoT, Internet of Things, also. And it's affecting every aspect of our life. As I said, also I'm involved in the project using this Internet of Things. Machine learning, I use AI and how to apply this to the machine. And usually I say to my students, we are living in a science fiction right now. Bring our own device. It was more when we was involved in the delivering our services, products to our organization. Now it's more virtual devices. All right. When just consider what is for me, for my organization, for myself. I would say VeriSM is still new after 3 years, holistic approach to service management. So this is an approach you can consider. Still standards globally recognized like ITIL. It's very useful. It's not a competition between VeriSM and ITIL. So I recommend ITIL because it's much faster, much effective and efficient to consider this for IT, for service providers, and for the whole organization. Could be VeriSM as an approach in involving service management and help us to deliver service management in the companies. So service management is that exists, and all these methodologies I just mentioned during this very short webinar is to help understand how we can deliver better services to our customers, consumers, users, partners, and one word, stakeholders. I believe in service management because I spent last 32 years in service management, and I observe how affect my life of the organizations I work for, not only in good way, because it's treated like a joke, but I moved from one company, internet provider, to another one, and the second one was amazing. But they not focusing on to deliver value in terms of services to the customers. And just after my joining to this company, 4 days, they disappeared from the market. It wasn't my success or failure, but I experienced this. So I believe that those certification coming from ITIL, from VeriSM, even ITIL version 3 is still valid, can support. I have trained 30,000 people right now. And when I meet my students, I teach 10 years ago, 15 years ago, usually they say, you changed my life. And because you change my way I think about myself, my organization, and how we can deliver our services. So this is all I prepared. And the last part is for you. If you have any issue, questions, we can use our organization. First question I can find here: where to start implementing ITIL? I would say, first of all, we have to know what is ITIL, how to use it, and is to get information. You can get information just from the internet, just to buy from TSO publisher the manual. But in my opinion, the fastest way is to join training, accredited training, of course. And I have one secret. People start usually increase prices of the exams and trainings and materials. So it's better to usually for the last 10 years, when people said was involved in the market, I usually reply, take the exam in the and the training in the current year because it's cheaper and better than the next year. So I use this statement for myself. So where to start implementing? Get knowledge. Then check in which part of organization ITIL can exist, like change management, maybe risk management, maybe incident problem, and start with that. In ITIL 4, we set up the system as a construction service value system, and we involve those practices applicable for our current situation. I hope, Chris, I answer your question. If not, type here in QA. I can see anonymous attendee. What methodology is best to choose in today's labor market? I believe in two. The most it's VeriSM and ITIL. ITIL more because it's popular in the global market. And yes, Chris, I come back to you. Just answer the second one. And in my opinion, it's also for ITIL and VERS and combination of them. This is the second question. Chris, yes, I come back to you. Chris, you raise your hand, so you should be probably everyone is muted, so you can just show me. Just type your question. Chris. All right, I come back to you. Claudia, is this very suitable for the banking sector? Yes, in my opinion, yes, because I train and was the request for that from the global banks, like Riyadh Bank in Saudi Arabia, like in Netherlands, ING, and yes, VERS is for the entire organization as a concept of service management. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Claudia, I hope I answer you. I don't know who is anonymous attendee here. And Martin, in this webinar, you present many different methodologies, but how you decide on the best one of my company? I believe there's just a short review and, okay, two methods. You can do by yourself using this presentation and decide, thank you, Chris. Or usually, I believe, because I was a member of Gartner team, and Gartner usually propose reports about service management tools, and I believe Gartner business is very easy. Just considering collecting data, and big data as well, from the market and sharing this. For example, I was a part of this research. What we met with senior managers from the global organization, banking industry, military industry, government, and we met with them and collecting data. And based on this collection, they share the responses. You say the best way, yeah, thank you. Martin, I hope I answered. I coming back to Martin. The best way is to know. So you can recognize this by your self-study, or you can join foundation, for example, ITIL 4 Foundation or VeriSM Foundation training, and just recognize how to apply this. Those two I like the most one. Elnur, is this management mesh only for use? No. Good question. Absolutely not, because for example, as I mentioned, I use management mesh also during my TOGAF training. It's with combination of gap analysis when you consider different gaps between BDAT model, business data application, and technology architectures. And I like to use this just to see, as well as I like to use Kinefin prepared by Dave Snowden or Moscow for prioritization. So this management mesh is very useful for that. I hope I answer. Thank you, Marcin. Elnur, thank you. I hope I answer your question. Okay, any other questions? When I just I deliver training around the world in different places in the world now online. I met with okay, I come back to Chris. Is ITIL version 3 no longer obsolete? As I know, ITIL version 3 is valid to the end of this year, as I check with people, but it's changing over time. And for me, getting ITIL version 3 knowledge could be very useful, because in my opinion, 60% of ITIL version 3 can be very useful. So I'm not just convinced you to take the training, but knowledge from ITIL version 3, like OCM, Organization Change Management, like OBM, Organization Behavior Management, like approach to the change from Mr. Kotter 8 steps. Usually in my trainings, at the beginning of the trainings, I use the first step. And Mr. Kotter usually say, make sense of urgency, how urgent this is. And I translate to my own language, and I say, scurry them. Oh, when I work also with top managers or the board of the organization, I try to scurry them to show implications, to show consequences of the not doing something. Do something. So, Chris, I hope you answer. It's still valid from the perspective of knowledge, experience right now. Make sense for you? Okay. Yes. Thank you. So, I would say those approaches I started in 2004. So my first certificate I got in 2005, ITIL version 2. Of course, not first, because as I mentioned, I was in sales, or Gustav Kaiser, or spin selling, or another approach I did in my past. I was a novel administrator also. I was OpenVMS. I'm not sure if anyone remember OpenVMS with Alpha System, VX computers. And I did a lot of certificates, but I mentioned BMP, Best Management Practices, that started in 2005. Thank you, Marcin. Thank you, Elnur. Anyone else? Any question? I really enjoy you come to our webinar. As I mentioned, this is the first in the cycle of the webinars provided by Advice Skills. Down here in the picture, you can find the web page, www.adviceskills.com. And there is a contact, you can request more, and we can stay in touch through this web page as well. So if you have any question for future, you can contact with me by this web page. Thank you very much. No more question. Thank you for your time, for being on our first webinar. And I would like to invite you for the next one. We will share with you information on our newsletter and also on our web page. I invite you for that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Rafał, Sibylla. Thank you. I like to be more interactive with my students, but I invite you to my trainings provided by Advice Skills. We will be more in touch online, or maybe someday face to face, I hope. Thank you very much.